All right, welcome back. Today we're going to be going over how to set up a terrain in Unreal. Now I have World Creator open currently, and this is all the work that I've put together into this environment. I've gone through a few tutorials already. I'll link that below on how we can get a result like what I have here currently. Now I went ahead and did a little bit of reviz in World Creator by assigning the textures, some of the same textures that I'll be using in Unreal from Quixel Megascans. So if you don't have an account for that, just go online and make one. It's free, and you can download the same textures or whatever textures you like for your terrain. I also went ahead and left the water on just so I can get an idea of where I want to place my water plane. So I just kind of look around and get some points of reference to know where I'll end up placing that in Unreal. I also went ahead and turned on the sky. Now, by default, you can get a basic sky dome with some clouds in Unreal. If you want something more fancy, like this volumetric setup here, you can get ultra dynamic sky. That is not free, but it is worth it in my opinion. For the price, you can get some really nice results. Okay, so I'm just gonna fly around the environment here for a little bit. This is kind of the hero camera angle that I'm using to get a point of reference when I'm rebuilding this. And we're gonna try and go through and rebuild as many of these settings that we have in World Creator in Unreal so that we can get it looking as close as possible. Now do keep in mind that World Creator does not currently support displacement. And so that's something that I currently don't have plugged in right now, but in Unreal, we can turn that on and we'll get some nice additional detail out of our environment by using Nanite. All right, so I went ahead and launched the Epic Games Launcher, and on the top right, I'm currently using Unreal Engine version 5.3.2. So let's go ahead and hit launch button. And we'll get a pop-up that looks like this. Now from here, if you're starting fresh, we're going to be using games and the third-person template. If you have an RTX video card, you can turn on ray tracing. And if you'd like the starter content, you can check that on as well. I'm not going to check it on for this tutorial, but feel free to check that on if you'd like to check that out. Then go ahead and name your project and navigate to your directory. Now I've already gone ahead and done that, so I'm going to go to my recent projects and launch the landscape project that I've set up. All right. Now that we're in Unreal, this is the default environment that you'll get from the third-person template. Now, if you are in this tutorial, you should have at least a basic level of understanding of the Unreal Engine. So to get started, we're going to go ahead and open our content drawer. And I've already gone ahead and set up a folder for a demo. So if you don't have one, go ahead and on the content folder selected, you can right click, select new folder, and then you can name that folder landscape or whatever your project is going to be. Now in my case, I'm going to delete that because we've already done that. And here's the landscape folder I made. Now inside the landscape folder, I made 3 additional folders, and you can do that by selecting the landscape folder, right clicking, select new folder, then name your folders however you'd like. In my case, I've gone ahead and named a maps folder that's going to contain our level, materials folder that's going to contain the material we plan on building, and World Creator folder that has all my exports from World Creator. Now, once again, if you haven't seen that tutorial yet, there is a export tutorial, and I'll link that down below. And I've also gone ahead and downloaded a few textures from Quixel Megascans. Now, by default, it'll make this folder structure for you, and you'll be able to see your downloads right here. Very convenient. Now, if you don't know how to do that, you just simply go up to Window and open Quixel Bridge, and that'll bring up a user interface. You'll have to log in with your Epic account, and you can download right from there. So let's go ahead and open it up. And then right from here, you can search for surfaces, and it's a very nice library that you can look through to download things. Now, let's say you liked something like this ground texture. You can look through and peek for what you want and select the quality. Now, for the terrain, I don't really recommend you go for highest quality, just because anything that is going to be close to the camera will probably be replacing it at a later time with a PCG setup, or if not, we'll be bringing in some Quixel Megascan assets and placing them on the environment. So anything, you know, more than medium quality is really overkill. So if you want to adjust any of the settings of what you're downloading, you can't really do it from user interface here. You have to actually open up Quixel Bridge, the standalone download, which you can download from their website. And in here, once you are logged in, you can go to edit and select download settings. And then you'll have these options here on the right hand side. Now, feel free to just take a screenshot and have your settings like this. I believe this might be the default, but I can't really remember if I changed anything, but this has been working for me. And you can also adjust your model download settings as well right here. But once that's done, you can close it out. Now that's how this is currently running. So with this texture selected, if you want to add it to your project, you can hit the download button right here on the bottom right, or conveniently each thumbnail has a download green icon on the top right. You can also favorite the surfaces that you like and then take a look later and see which ones that stand out to you the most for what you want to put together. So then you would go ahead and download, and I'll show you guys my favorite section over here. These are some assets that I've favorited. And if you see the little green checkbox on the top left, that means that it's already been downloaded. Now, after you have that downloaded, you can go ahead and hit the add icon here on the bottom right, and that will automatically add it into your project and build out that folder structure that I showed earlier. So we'll go ahead and close out of this. Let's go ahead and get into the example map that I've already set up. In your case, what you'll want to do is, with the map folder selected, go ahead and right click and hit level, and then name your level whatever you want. In this case, I'll call it terrain demo. And we'll go ahead, and before we go in, I just want to go ahead and show you what we're trying to achieve for today. So I'll use the example first. I'll double click the example level, so say selected for the new one we just made. As you can see, I've brought in my height map from Wall Creator. I've gone ahead and set up a basic sky setup, and I put a plane for where I want the water to be. I've also gone ahead and placed my player start and some basic lighting setup. And I've also gone ahead and assigned a simple material right now, the material instance, and it's called example. Go ahead and show you guys that. Here are materials. We have the base material, we have the material instance of that material, and we have a very basic material function to control a normal strength. Now, I'll go ahead and walk you guys through this as we get into rebuilding it. But just to take a peek inside to see what it's currently doing. And we went ahead and dragged in all our textures, these 4 right here. And then I went ahead and converted those into texture parameters so that we can control it in our material instance. There's the size of the texture. This controls basically the placement of it. So if you want to scale up the repeat, that's a parameter that lets you control that. Then we've set up some controls for the diffuse or the albedo pass. Gone ahead and called it albedo controls. Now over here I'm showing that you can do this multiple ways with individual setups for control, or you can use something like this to drive from one convenient node, which lets you rename the channels so that it's nice and grouped in your material instance and keeps that clean. We've also, over over here, set up a control for the roughness and a switch in case you don't have a mask for a texture that perhaps you're working on your own and you don't have a roughness map, or a mask texture rather, which is basically a packed texture. In this case, all the Quixel Megascan textures that you would download have this, to my knowledge, and we can go ahead and go in here and explore what that looks like. So if we look at the red channel, this is the AO. If we look at the green channel, this is the roughness. Look at the blue channel, this is displacement. So by shuffling out from each one of those layers, that's why it's called packing your textures, then we can plug them in as needed. Red going to ambient occlusion, green going to our switch in case we don't have roughness in our texture, we can go with a default gray, and then blue is going to a control for the strength of the displacement using a contrast, and that goes into the displacement here. And then for this default roughness, we can go ahead and just make just duplicate this, one of these textures, and down here scroll down to the roughness on the material expression texture base, and go ahead and search for 127 gray, and that gives us our default gray. If you don't see that when you search for it, just hit the gear icon here, and I believe it's showed engine content, and that should get that to show up. And then our normals is also getting plugged into a control for its strength. And that's pretty much what we're going to be walking you guys through in the next section of this tutorial. Now that covers the material itself. Then we want to go ahead and cover the material instance and show you guys how that looks. So this is the material instance. So by using that constant and renaming those channel names, we now can go ahead and group all that into one nice convenient spot under albedo controls, and we can check that on and control the saturation, brightness, etc. of our texture. And here we have the tint control, displacements, we can control the amount, and then I've set some default settings already. And this way we can swap out textures as needed in the future. And let's go ahead and take a look at how that's looking. So move this over, zoom in a bit. If I turn on displacement and normal strength, crank up my normal strength, crank up my displacement, see that you can get some pretty nice results by combining those two in your terrain. Now, like I said before, you don't need crazy high quality textures. These are all medium quality textures, but it works really well as a base. All right, now before we move on, I did want to mention one thing. So by default, the current version of Unreal we're using will not have this displacement set up. So if you are in the material, you won't see the displacement down here by default. You actually have to turn that on. So to do so, you want to go ahead and navigate to the directory where you set up your project and find the config folder. So in this case, my project is called Landscape. Go into the config folder and then look for the DefaultEngine.ini file, and you can open that with Notepad. So you'll get a window like this, and you want to search for the section where it reads render settings, and at the bottom of that section there, you want to type in following command, this following code here. And once you have that done, you can hit save and close that out. you'll have to relaunch your project in order for it to take effect. Then once you've done that, you'll see the displacement option on your material show up. All right, that concludes this section, and see you guys in the next one.